Welcome back into the Mental Game, where this week's guest is former NFL tight end Delanie Walker.
Getting that call about my auntie being killed, it was. I didn't believe it. No one blamed me, but I kind of was like, if I didn't go to the Super Bowl, this would have never happened. You know what I mean? So I had to really sit back and fight those demons.
And in this episode, Delanie opens up about his football journey, which took him from community college all the way to the NFL, where he got to live out his dream playing in the Super Bowl. But while he was playing on the biggest stage, just hours later, he suffered the biggest heartbreak in his life, losing his aunt and uncle. As they were driving home from the game, they got hit by a drunk driver. Delanie really opens up about that loss, his healing journey, and how he's worked with Mothers Against Drunk Driving to make sure no other family struggles with this loss like he did. All of that and much, much more coming up in this episode. But first, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I am talking to you because we have to talk about our mental health. We have to be comfortable being vulnerable and talking about how we're feeling, and that's why you need to go to mantherapy.org, where you can find amazing tools and resources to help us with our mental health. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with Delanie Walker. Welcome back into the Mental Game. As you can tell, I got a very special guest sitting next to me, former NFL tight end Delanie Walker. Delanie, appreciate you coming on the Mental Game.
Thanks for having me.
First, I got to address the fit because this looks incredible. The Garfield shirt, I mean, you got some drip on you right now.
Yeah, I love Garfield, man, and that's a vintage, though. It was hard to find. And the shorts, purple, by the Purple Label, love them. They make a lot of good stuff for guys like my size, and I just, it's a nice day in Nashville. I just thought I'd wear something nice.
Well, it looks good. I think you and Nate Burleson are only the two guests that I've opened up talking about drip. I mean, Nate's like the best dressed guy on TV.
Definitely. He got a lot of style.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I want to go through your whole personal journey, football journey. It wasn't easy for you going through, I think, a different college route, community college, D2, and then make it through the NFL. And you had a long, successful career with 3 different teams. But the first thing I ask everyone here on the Mental Game is, what does mental health mean to you? And people answer it in a variation of ways because it's super personal. It's a hard question to answer. Maybe it's something that you had an event that made you think about it more. Or maybe it's something you've always, taken care of. But I ask you the same thing. What does mental health mean to you?
Mental health means it means to me as being able to understand yourself as a person, and that can be female, male, or whatever. Knowing your body, knowing your mind, knowing who you are. So it's very important to me because I feel like for us to be able to grow, you got to know your mental. You got to have a stable mental, and so that's what makes it important to me.
Is there for you growing up in Los Angeles, out in Cali? Was it something you guys talked about growing up? Or I'm assuming with me, I mean, I didn't hear about mental health until I think I was 25, 26. Were you taught to just rub dirt on it and go and just not be weak? No, but don't be vulnerable?
Yeah, in my upbringing, man, like we never talked about mental health. I don't even think, I didn't even know the signs because it wasn't a thing. It was like, that's a weakness, or you being weak, like you said, rub dirt on it and go. So that wasn't ever talked about. And and honestly, when I sit back and I'm sitting here and I'm starting to think, I had a lot of friends that went through mental health, but didn't know the signs, didn't know what they were going through, caused them to act out and do things they probably wouldn't have. And ultimately that put them in prison or put them on the wrong track, I would say. So it just wasn't never talked about. And, growing up in the 90s, that was tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, if you said anything about you feeling kind of, I'm not right in the head or something, they labeled you as crazy.
Yeah.
So you're weak.
Yep.
Like you can't handle the pressure. So it just wasn't talked about.
Well, it's crazy to look back on that now when you look at your upbringing and getting into, football, when was football kind of your outlet, your thing? When did that dream start to become reality where you said, hey, this might be right for me?
It's funny. I tell this story all the time, but it was Pop Warner.
So at 5 years old, 6 years old, you knew this was it?
8 years old. When I was playing, and the coach one day was just like telling my mom, like, he can go to the NFL. He got the potential to go to the NFL if he sticks to this. And I never paid. I paid my first year for Pop Warner, and then after that, I never paid.
You're on scholarship.
I was on scholarship, so it was already in my mind, like, I'm going to college. I'm going to the NFL.
Yeah.
And I really thought of that. But honestly, when it really hit me, it would have to be college, obviously, when I started having scouts come to the game. And I went D2. And then to have 15 scouts come to a game to watch a D2 player, I kind of knew this may be the road that's going to change my life. You know, so.
Well, you playing in the league and learning a lot, obviously hearing what other college athletes and football players had, facilities-wise, scholarship-wise. I mean, you started, it was the first year at community college, then went to D2 in Missouri for the next 3 years, right?
2 years.
2 years, okay. Yeah. So for you, how hard was that, like mentally balancing look, I've worked at the top of the top when it comes to like LSU or the Bengals, covering those teams every day. I've also seen facilities where it's tough and it's not as nice as that. For you, did you feel like a little chip on your shoulder coming from community college D2?
I always had a chip on my shoulder, even when I was leaving high school and I didn't get the grades and I didn't want to prop 48. I still had a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, I'm still the best football player in California. Even I probably wasn't, but that's how I take my day every day. I wake up and I think that. So then when I went to JUCO, and we had all these different guys from JUCO there, some of the top players around California, and I'm like, okay, I'm better than these dudes, and had a chip on my shoulder then, and I was known as the DB killer because I screamed that every day, like DB killer. Made people hate me on the team, but that's how I am. Yeah. And then when I was going to Central Missouri, I chose the wrong path, and that put me in D2 instead of doing the things I had to do. So I always tell people I took the yellow brick road, and I didn't know what mental illness was, or I didn't know the signs. So I couldn't even tell you if I had that. You know what I mean? Because I didn't understand it, and I would hide it if I did have it. You know what I mean? So when I got to Central, they kind of woke me up a little bit and was like, "Look, we get you a star, but we don't care. Yeah, we can go find another you." And that kind of like changed my whole way of thinking, the way I was. So the chip on my shoulder was getting knocked down because really Willie Fritz was a great coach, and he was trying to make me understand that you always had this guard. Right? Where you don't trust people, so you try to be the best that you can be and be the leader of every team. If you don't do it, we don't win. He was like, but we got to play as a team. And then that was my first time understanding, like, I may have a mental blockage where I don't trust certain people coming from where I come from. Yeah. So he opened up my eyes to certain things like that. But again, I still didn't understand that. I can see it, but I didn't understand it. So you know, that was pretty much my journey to Central Missouri State. It's cool to hear you say Willie Fritz's name. I wasn't expecting to hear that, but I guess that's where he was at back then. Yeah, cool, that's cool. Before I'm going to mention this because I heard it. If I can backtrack, you even said it yourself. You went down the wrong path. Yeah. That's how you phrased it. What was that path, and why? Like, why did that? I don't know. That just struck me when you were giving that answer. The path that I'm speaking of mean like choosing the wrong crowd, not going to school, hanging around people I shouldn't have hang around, being in certain situations. I was ultimately put on probation for 2 years and couldn't leave the state of California because of, like I said, going down the wrong path. And I realize that now as a kid growing up with the people I grew up with, that was cool. Right. You know, being in those type of situations. And I didn't understand that because I was trapped in a box. Yep. And once I was able to get out of that box, I realized the way I was living wasn't correct. Right. And that's the path. Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. And it's looking at that perspective, you almost see, hey, I don't have to live like this. And you see potential with football happening at the same time, with scouts coming out to the games. Could you just feel it as you got closer to senior year and you start to see all those scouts, and obviously you hear your name in the draft? That had to seem like a culmination of
18, 19, 20 years of just really, really hard work coming to fruition.
Yeah, once I got to Central, like again, I said Willie was a great coach,
Yeah,
a great mentor. He also know how to build kids to become men. So like I didn't go to class a lot until I got to Central, and he made sure I was in class every day.
Yep.
I was on the honor roll, dean's list. Scouts was coming in. I started becoming a better person. I actually moved in with 5 white dudes as my roommates, and I've never lived with 5 white dudes, let alone hang out with that many at where I grew up at. So it was just like life-changing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They showed me things that I probably never would have experienced if I didn't have that opportunity to go to Central Missouri State. So it woke me up, if I would say, and it made me understand that life is what you make it.
Yep.
You know, you choose it. And I was choosing to change it at that time.
I love the way that you say that. And you talked about becoming a man. A big step for us men, and I'm not one yet, but is becoming a father.
True.
You did that at 19.
Very young. Yeah.
And that experience, you're at the Missouri D2 school at that time, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
And for you, how did that change your life in that moment? Because you have these football dreams. You talk about being maybe on the wrong path and hanging out with the wrong crowd. All of a sudden, you got to be a dad, and it's life-changing. How did it change your life?
It changed a lot. You know, when my son was born, I just got to Central Missouri State, so I had to fly back to California. Flew back, watched my son get born, and then it almost hit me where I was like, now I have someone watching me. What I already did, I had a younger brother, but now I have someone who's really going to look up to me, follow my footsteps. And what legacy do I want to leave for him? You know what I mean? So it kind of clicked. When I got back to school, 3 weeks later, she moved up there with me and my son. So they were staying with me, and that changed everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, okay, now they here with me. I really got to be on my A's and on my P's and Q's and start snapping together. And I was already going to do that because Willie didn't have he wasn't going to have it. Yeah, but my son really just put me on another scale of how much I got to be successful to make sure that, you know, he don't have to go down the path that I went down.
I covered when I was in Louisiana, a kid named Danny Johnson, plays for Washington now, was at Southern University, and he had his son, I think, as a senior in high school, and he was with him throughout college. And watching that bond and how that grew and the motivation, like having your son with you after games at that age, you're 20, 21, and he's 2 years old. Did that fuel you on the field?
Oh, yeah, of course. It fueled me. Just to know that he's watching, you know what I mean, watching your game. And it's just a feel of, you know what I mean, to know that your family there. It's hard to explain because, you know, growing up, luckily I got to go to San Francisco and play, so I had a lot of family members watching me. But high school, you know, my mom worked 2 jobs. She never really came to a game. So it was almost new to me, you know what I mean, to have family at a game cheering me on. But because again, like I said, my mom don't know football. Football really ain't her thing.
Yeah.
So she rather worked.
Right.
Because we needed her to work.
Yeah.
So it felt good. It was like having a chip on my shoulder, you know what I mean? Knowing that I got the fam out there and I'm about to go crazy out here. and so it looks good on both parts.
Well, yeah, it's awesome. And for them to get to cheer you on throughout, you know, your time there and then to hear your name called and to get to the NFL, what was that moment like? Because your path, you might say it's the wrong path of what you're doing before, but it's also a hard path to go community college, D2 to the NFL, and to get drafted. Not like, we're not talking signed to the practice squad, actually drafted. Yeah. How joyful was that moment for you?
It was very joyful. Again, like I said, I always tell people my journey was like the yellow brick road. I had to go through obstacles, and I had to overcome every obstacle. And it's crazy if you really think about the Wizard of Oz. It was almost like they were fighting her mental illness on surviving, on how to be stronger, tougher, right?
Yeah.
And in that aspect, if you look at it that way, so that's how it was for me. I had to get stronger from every obstacle that I went through. And then the ultimate goal was getting drafted to the NFL. So it felt great that I was able to overcome everything I did and then to get on a narrow path to lead me to the goal that I always wanted, and that was to be drafted in the NFL. So, I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, it was you can't the words can't explain what it feel like to be at the house with all your family and your name get called on the TV. Like, I don't cry much, but I swear, like, it was like a big old hug gathering and everybody was crying. And it was just one of the best times of my life, to be honest with you.
And that's just incredible, and I love hearing these stories and telling them through the podcast. You get to the NFL, you said you were in San Francisco. Getting through rookie year and then starting to see success on the field. You guys had a lot of winning over there when you were in San Fran. How cool was that to just get into the league and start going to work right away?
It was great. And when I got drafted to the San Francisco 49ers, always been a fan.
Yeah.
Die hard.
Okay, that's
Die
cool.
hard. You get what I'm saying? And my whole family is. So
oh
it was
my
like,
God, that's awesome.
It was crazy, but and it's funny, I don't mean to get off topic, but I told my mom, I had a dream one day, and she woke me up like, you got to get a job. You don't do nothing but lay around. I said, Ma, I'm going to get drafted to the San Francisco 49ers. Like, trust me. She tell this story like, you was like 12 years old when you told me 13 years old. I'm like, I'm getting drafted to the 49ers. Like, let me lay here. Let me sleep a little longer. So, like, it was crazy to go to the San Francisco's because they were a team that was already good.
Yeah.
I mean, our first few years, we wasn't that good yet, but we was getting to that point.
Right.
So it was out of this world, honestly, to go to San Francisco 4 years later. We're a contending team, you know what I mean, whooping people, unstoppable, one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the best fan base in the NFL. So it was just unbelievable. I was just thankful for the opportunity to play for him.
That's so crazy. It's like the hometown kid gets to play for his hometown team. I purposely put the Bengals helmet behind me because I'm from Cincy. So like I didn't want to throw any NFL guys off with that behind them.
Oh, no, you fine.
You mentioned all the success and getting to winning, and you guys go to the Super Bowl. And for you, another word you've used a lot is obstacle. You had an obstacle come up after that game that you had no clue could come your way. For you getting to play in the Super Bowl, I imagine that had to be a super emotional, gratifying, amazing dream come true moment. But losing your aunt and uncle afterwards, finding that out hours after you get off the field, can you just walk me through that moment and how tough that obstacle was for you?
Yeah, it was really tough because my auntie, Peaches, we call her Peaches, and Brian, biggest fans. I mean, they've been to every game. And I remember her calling me like, when y'all go to the Super Bowl this year, we there. I'm like, man, we ain't even play a game yet. She's like, you going? I know it. I'm like, of course. You definitely, y'all getting tickets. But to play in the Super Bowl, to be on that high, I mean, the best high you can be on is to play in the Super Bowl and that magnitude of game, to hit your very low. You know what I mean? Finding out that, getting that call about my auntie being killed, it was I didn't believe it, you know, which was weird because like I knew something had happened, but I felt it, you know what I mean? I felt it because I don't know why that night I just felt weird, and we was on a flight home, so I couldn't see all the calls that I had, but when we landed and I turned my phone on, it was just like, call after call after call after call. My mom, she don't call that much. My auntie don't call. My grandma don't even call me that much. But it was just like, you know what I mean? And I call my mom. She crying like, I think Peaches died. I'm like, what? I was just with Peaches. What are you talking about? It was like, did you see the news? And I haven't seen the news yet. But the 49ers staff and the people who work there are great, love them forever. I guess they had got the information and kind of was like, look, this happened. We think you need to go. And they got me a plane ticket to fly back home. And then that's when, you know, as I was going, I was seeing all the information. I saw the news and saw the car and stuff and realized it was my auntie. So that was tough. And to go through that again after being in the Super Bowl, it almost wiped that out. Like, you know, we took the L and then I took a bigger L that same day. So it was tough. You know what I mean? It was tough to get over and deal with my family because and no one blamed me, but I kind of was like, if I didn't go to the Super Bowl, this would have never happened. You know what I mean? So I had to really sit back and fight those demons for a long time to realize, it was out of my hands and nothing I can do. But I cherish my auntie every moment, and that's why I had a partnership with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, because I wanted her legacy to live on.
For you, you mentioned the joy of playing in the Super Bowl, being at this high and then this low. And I heard you mention this self-blame when it's not your fault. But in the moment when you're going through something, I went through my own suicidal thoughts and went through some really tough moments. And I didn't realize that feelings are temporary. Feelings aren't facts. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, you have this self-blame. How did you power through those moments and balance that? Because it can be a really dark place.
It was tough. I have a really strong mother, crazy as hell.
Mine too.
Yeah. and our family is very tight knit. Like, we are very close to each other. And when I try to go on that dark place and hide and blame myself, they wouldn't let me. You know what I mean? They definitely wouldn't let me. And then and behind my camp, I got good people who work with me, like Lauren. And they found people like Mothers Against Drunk Driving that can help our family recover from something like this, some tragic incident that happened in our family. So having them behind us and they helped us through the court proceeding, the trial, and I needed that, because if it wasn't for them, I would have had to do all that when I had this self-blame on my back, and I was fighting that for a very long time. Yeah. So without all the people that I had behind me, I don't know what would have happened. But like I said, I have a strong backbone, and we all got through it together.
You mentioned the family, which can play such a big role, especially when you got mom there. And I'm curious too. Did therapy ever cross your mind? Is that something that you've tried? When you got to that moment, did you know about any of those resources that were there?
Yeah, I've had therapy before, not because I chose to. I had to through the NFL, but therapy to me, it's big. It can be big for certain people, but I think I have a issue talking to someone who I don't know, if that makes sense, who have never been where I've been or stepped in the same shoes I stepped in. So it's almost like when I start speaking, they get scared because they don't understand where I come from. Yeah, I think it's easier for me to talk to somebody, I feel like, who been in my shoes. Like, I can talk to another football player very easy. I can open up to him. I can open up to, a childhood friend I grew up with. I don't know. It's just to me, it's difficult for me to open up to someone like that. But
well, this isn't me having like a shot at you. Like, I'm a big fan of therapy. Therapy saved my life. But the answer, I think, is important for everyone to understand that listens to the show. They hear it all the time. The answer is different for everyone.
Yes,
when it comes to mental health, you might be able to lean on family, friends, coaches, teammates. Sometimes you gotta lean on someone like a therapist if you're going through something tough, or check yourself in like I did. But you got to find out what works for you. And so you mentioned Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They helped you with the court proceedings, helped you as a support system. You've done some great work with them since to honor your auntie. How has that been for you to just kind of have that outlet and that purpose when you're going through something that tough?
It was actually great for me, you know what I mean? Because it helped me open up about it. Like, the hardest part was me not talking about it. And I think that's what it like builds, you start getting like
bottling it up.
Yeah, you bottling up, so it starts to build tissue, right? And it gets tough, and you can't get in there. But at the end of the day, it's going to explode at one point. Yeah. So being with them and them telling me, speak about it, outreach, go out there, you got to talk about it so this doesn't happen to anyone else. You know what I mean? And I think that's what helped me so much, was being able to talk about it, to communicate to other people who actually experienced the same situation. And I think that's what made it easy for me, because every time I went and spoke, I was speaking to mothers, sisters, brothers, uncles, cousins that all experienced someone being killed by a drunk driver in their family. So it almost made it easier for me to talk to them because they can relate to what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it seems like you mentioned the therapy thing, wanting to, like, you feel like you couldn't trust them, couldn't talk to them, maybe they don't understand all the way. Like, this is your therapy.
That's my therapy. Yeah, that's what I mean. Therapy to me is like not just going and talking to some person I know, but a friend.
Yeah.
Being able to say some stuff to him, knowing that they gonna understand and have the right things to say to me, than just listening and writing stuff down. So like my therapy is just different from someone else's therapy, you know.
As long as you're doing something to take care of your mental health.
Yeah, as long as you're getting it out. I feel like when you boggle it all up, that's when you explode. Because it's hard for us as men to talk to anybody until you realize that this person may be going through the same stuff you going through. You just gotta see, you know what I mean? And that was tough for me. And I wasn't able to do that. And obviously, as I got older and started to understand it, obviously the world has changed a lot.
Completely.
And now it's acceptable. You're not considered weak, crazy. Yeah. It is. This is like, we want to talk about it. So that helps. You know what I mean? And I think that's where men in America now can seek help without seeming like they're weak.
Loss and grief can be really hard to deal with. You know, you've heard Delaney and I both talk about that in this episode, and we both said you can't do it alone. We have to talk about how we're feeling, and that's why I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I am talking to you because we have to be comfortable being vulnerable and showing our emotions. Look, from the outside, judge a book by its cover. Delanie Walker, 10 plus years in the NFL playing tight end. He's this big, badass man, but he is also comfortable being emotional and talking about his mental health. And we all need to be that way because that's how we take care of our mental health and be the best version of ourselves. So that's why you need to go to mantherapy.org today and take their 18-point head inspection. It's a quick 2-minute test that just asks you basic questions where you can give answers to help you figure out how to take the best care of your mental health. You can find amazing resources and tools and mental health professionals all at mantherapy.org. I took the test. It really helped me with my mental health, and I want you to do the same. So again, go to mantherapy.org. The stigma around men's mental health is something that I've talked about with Terry Crews, Kevin Gates, Nate Burleson, and also talking about the stigma with black men's mental health and how just us as men, also as black men, taught not to talk about it. There's no resources you were told about. You lived it in the NFL. You've seen it. You kind of were in the part where like it started to turn a little bit. Now it's completely different when you walk in a locker room, how guys are, how the staff is with mental health. But how big of a problem has that been that you've seen firsthand with men and their mental health? And you mentioned the world's changing. Like, isn't it like inspiring to see how people are talking about it now?
Very, very. I mean, it's crazy that it's, you know, it took off, but we needed it to take off because at this point it's at a high where we are seeing situations happen. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, oh, they had a mental issue, or they had this. But why wasn't it talked about before? Right. It's always when it happened. Yeah. Right. And now that we putting stuff in place to catch these things before it happened is big, especially in the black community, because literally it is. Don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. You're weak. You can't be around us. Like those are things that happens daily in the black community, and it's still happening. I mean, in some communities, they are talking about it, but where I grow up, I promise you, they still not talking about it. It's like a weakness, right? Yeah. You have to go somewhere else to seek help and not tell anybody. So hopefully that all change in some of these black communities, because it's big. You can seek help from everywhere, but you have to want to seek help. You have to choose to seek help, because if you still saying that it ain't you, you only hiding them. You only hiding it. It's like pig. It's like a pig with lipstick. It's still there. You just covering it up. Yeah. So I always tell my dudes, like, if you need someone to talk about it, because I'll get guys call me like, bro, I'm losing it. I'm financially hurt. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then to me, I'm like, that's a mental weakness. Yeah. Right. You may need to seek help for that. Something in your life is not going right. Yeah. And you don't know how to talk about it. So your first thing is to commit a crime, be violent, or act out. And they don't understand that is a mental issue.
Yeah.
And you need to seek help. So hopefully we can get those messages spreaded to the right communities that are experiencing these type of mental issues.
Talking saves lives. That's something that I believe in 1,000%. And to see how men just like you and me and all the NFL guys, actors, musicians I've had on be able to talk about it, it does change lives. I want to talk a little bit fun stuff now too.
Yeah.
I mean, mental health is fun.
Yeah.
But I want to get into your career a little bit as well. You had a really successful career. I know we're in Nashville right now. It started in San Fran. You get to go for your childhood team to the Super Bowl. I know you lost, but still get to live out a dream. Look, I'm from Cincinnati. I haven't seen a championship my entire life. So it's tough for us. And San Francisco beat us in the 2 Super Bowls we were in.
Yeah.
But for you to the success you had in San Fran, then coming here to Tennessee and becoming a real pillar of this team and this franchise, how do you look back on your NFL career and show appreciation and love for it? Because it's hard to make it in that league more than 3, 4, 5 years. You had a long career in the league.
I was blessed. I always tell people I was blessed with the opportunity to play. I'm thankful, and I'm thankful because I went D2, got drafted to the San Francisco 49ers. I thank them for giving me the opportunity, believing in the kid. They didn't know what position he was going to play, and then giving me that opportunity. I'm thankful for the Tennessee Titans to see that I could have been something great if I had the opportunity.
Yeah.
They gave me that opportunity. I came in with the mindset, everything I learned from San Francisco, I took that and I stole it. And I'm like, I am taking that to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
And it worked. I was able to become a staple here, a leader on and off the field, led my team to a lot of victories, but led them to a lot of losses too. I'll take those. If we lost, I'll blame myself. But it was just great to have the opportunity to be a star. To be in the great city of Tennessee, play for the state of Nashville. The city of Nashville.
I was gonna let you go. I knew what you were saying.
The city of Nashville. So I'm thankful to be here, to have the opportunity to be a star here. Again, I can't take none of that back. I'm blessed to have the ability to play the game for 14 seasons and do it at a high level. So.
Well, your career was awesome to watch. This has been a great conversation. I want to hit on fund recovery because it's something that you're passionate about. We're here in Nashville getting ready for their event this week. Why is fund recovery something that you wanted to get involved with? Why did it speak to you, the mission?
Fund recovery spoke to me because it's trying to reach out to the people I'm talking about and to them communities that don't get enough information. These are the people who are trying to knock on that door to get their foot in there, and they doing it at a fast rate. They just came out, and now look at them. They everywhere. They trying to make sure everybody know this stigma that we all talk about can be changed. And they are the ones who are talking about it. They are the ones who are putting these in conversations because conversation is key. That conversation is a starter.
Yeah.
And that starts everything to get in motion. So everything that they're doing, that's what I'm all about. We need to reach the people who are not getting the information that they need, and that's who they're looking for.
And for people watching, listening at home, we're going to have a lot more information about fund recovery on the podcast, but they provide resources and therapy to people that might not be able to afford it. Also work with college, athletes, NFL guys, and try to help break the stigma like we've talked about. Last thing that I'm going to ask you, unless you got something else you want to get out, advice for someone that wants to follow in your footsteps and make it to the league. Maybe it's a kid that's sitting, listening to this, that's watched my show, but they play at a D2 school and feel like that path isn't there for them. What would be your advice to someone?
My advice to you is be relentless, tough, physical, never give up. If they say you can't do them, prove them wrong. But my biggest key is get a degree. Football doesn't last forever, but that education will last you for eternity. So if you want to be a football player, I would say get good grades, have a great attitude wherever you go, no matter where you at, and get a degree because that degree will last way past football. And football not guaranteed. You may play 2 or 3 years, and that's it. Yep. And then you have to fall back on something. So that degree is key. I know y'all probably didn't want to hear that, but I'm being honest. education is key. Please do that. The football league will not go anywhere.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks so much for coming on the Mental Game.
Thanks for having me.
This has been great. We'll see everybody right back here next week. And that was an amazing conversation with Delaney. I can't thank him enough for coming on the Mental Game and really opening up about his NFL journey, both on and off the field, his own mental health, his losses with his aunt and uncle, and now how he's being an advocate against drunk driving with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He is just such a good guy. I hope you enjoyed that conversation just as much as I did. Also, don't forget to go to fundrecovery.org. That's where you can donate to help those who might not be able to afford their own substance abuse or mental health services. Again, it is a great cause. That's how Delaney and I got connected in Nashville when we recorded this episode. To donate today, go to fundrecovery.org. Coming up next week on The Mental Game, it is another surprise guest. Your one hint, racing. Our first driver on The Mental Game next week. We'll see you right back here.